Hi everyone, and welcome to project vlog thing. I've decided to start doing these with this project because, and if I look down, it's because I'm still not used to the fact that I'm looking at a camera screen down here, and I should be looking at the camera. So I've decided to do project logs or vlogs about the current project which I'm considering working on, just because of how big, massive it is, and it would be really cool if it comes down to it and I have a finalized project, that I have all this record of how I got there, and that would be pretty awesome, I reckon. So I hope this works out because it would be really, really cool. So this is an introductory one. I've got nothing. I got a little bit on here, a little bit over there, but I've got nothing. I actually do have a game design document, but it isn't as big as this game design document needs to be. The game I'm considering working on is called The Way of the World, and I won't go into why that title is, and it's currently still a working title, but as I know from doing projects and seeing projects through a little bit, I'm pretty bad at seeing projects through, but as I know by seeing projects through, usually a working title sticks, which is why I removed my old working title and went with, okay, this is the title I would be happy with if it never changes. So we're not going to even get to the old one. I couldn't even pronounce it. So I concepted this game last year, like late last year, noting that we're in 2019 now. It's massive. It's not small, and I'm a sole developer at this stage, and it is undoubtedly massive. And at this stage as well, I'll iterate this, and I'll iterate this, and if these ever gain traction, I will iterate this. This is far from release. Never gonna. No hype. Absolutely none. This is just me getting my processes in order, and I'm gonna release them publicly because why not? It could be interesting to some people how such a long process happens, but no hype. And you know what? If we start hyping at one point, there'll be all this development logging, and that could work. And I'm not wanting any help especially at this stage, because there is no gameplay. And as a programmer, I'm quite sure I'll be able to discover fun in the game and I'll be able to make sure it's my project. It's very important. This project has very personal connections with me, and also connections to my faith. I'll get into the faith part shortly, but it's very much, I want it to be mine. I want to be selfish. It's mine. And if people started like coming into it at this very early stage, of course, it's not my project. It's my team's project, and I kind of don't want that right now. I think for now I can go ahead with my own little pet project here and see how it goes. Currently, the status is there's not a line of code. I'm doing this properly. I'm actually making sure I've got documents behind me, so I know what I'm coding when I get to coding, and there's a lot of work to do before coding. So there's no gameplay. I'm not going to show you anything. I've got one concept I'm going to show you. I've got a piece of paper somewhere with some art concept on it, but I'm awful at art, so I need to get better at that for some concept art, because I need concept art. If it's my project, even if I get artists later, I need to be the one that's the art director. So, yay. I've only done that once before, and I was pretty bad at it. As in, I let the artist go. So, it's very personal to me. There's no lines of code yet. There is nothing. So, I'm not asking for help. No, not at all. So, a bit about me. I am 24. I'm turning 25 this year. This current year is 2019. Currently recording this on, what's the date today? Windows. 6th of January. 6th of January, I'm recording this in 2019. The only work on this game was done maybe from October 2018. I don't know. I've been discussing it with a friend as I've gone. I have studied at the Academy of Interactive Entertainment in association with the Canberra Institute of Technology. And I've completed a Bachelor of Games in Virtual Worlds Programming. Currently, I reside in the city of Goulburn. I'm just outside Canberra. And when it comes to my faith, I'm a Christian, as can be seen. I've got a cross around my neck. And that will be playing a role in this game, as so does it play a role in a lot of Western media. Even if it's in the background, it's there. Western culture was built on Christianity. And I'm not saying that this game is going to be restricted to Christians. Oh gosh, no. I'm probably going to do a few things where some people go, huh? There's even one element where I've really needed it in the game, and I've designed a loophole so I don't actually need to put it there, but it's there, but I don't need to go into details of it. It's just going to be there, and no, you're not getting there. Maybe you'll get there, I don't know. I may need to go there. So my main goal with the Christian elements of the game will be that it doesn't lose accuracy. It is accurate and it doesn't get muddled and skewed. And really, like, it's going to have all that undertoning, but the actual gameplay should still be fun for everyone. That's the goal, and that's a tough line to walk. But I believe in this project, it's totally possible. Totally possible. So, I'm going to go through my GDD a bit now. I've got no presentation tools. Because this is just meant to be my personal thing. It's a pet project. I'm not going to give you a full presentation of craziness. So I'm up to 1.1 of my game design document at this stage. And it's my standard game design document. It's missing its game concept because I'm bad with concept art. But that should probably be my next measure, is to make sure all my art stuff is getting aligned to the one style. Pretty much I start and say this game is a long time off. It's based on my beliefs, and it's also it's a dystopian future. Ooh. So the game is an isometric RPG set in a cityscape. Currently, the cityscape is actually set in Brisbane City. And there's various reasons for that, and hopefully I get into them. If not, I need to put them somewhere, and this is also documented evidence. And I'm not going to go into that line because it's about story. I don't want you guys to hear anything about story. It's very story-driven, and there's no point spoiling a story without. But there's going to be a lot of elements that are built upon and just keep building and building and building, hopefully. And that's going to be a whole wall of my apartment trying to figure out how this storyline is going to go together. And my real estate's going to love that. So backstory of the world, though, I can go into this. And I don't mean to offend anyone by any points of this, but guess what? It's going to offend some people. I don't care. If you go anywhere into any real moral themes, someone's going to get offended. It's just the way it is. It's the way of the world. Not the reason for the game name, but anyway. The world has become a very dark place. People are finding enjoyment in their own weaknesses. Pubs and bars are still business and have less morality over them. People continue to drink as their minds go into their own drunken age. Age restrictions, though they're in the law, are not really respected. Kids that don't look old enough to drink are drinking. Men and women lounging around, and they're just trying to enjoy their own devices, really. The world is a lot more structured, though. Dystopian future, of course. People work their days in thirds, and strong regulation exists between the activity lines. If you're required... Activity times, not lines. What? If you're required to work the first shift, you must be ready and at work at 0 UTC. Yes, I'm using Universal Time Constant. I am not using Australian Eastern Standard Time, even though I'm based in Australia. No, same time all around the world. Done. And it will, and so working on the solar day, as in the Australian Eastern Standard Time, just because I'm probably not going to build sun timings into this, but it's going to be about 10 a.m. on the solar day, so not too bad for the first shift. There is a whole appendix on the daily timings. I would show you, but for some reason Vivaldi doesn't like screen sharing, and I have no idea why. Oh yeah, daylight time. What is left due to air pollution is based on Brisbane, Queensland, and also my daylight timings are actually when the sun rises. I've actually taken that. So far, I've taken that from when the sun actually rises, and I've transposed that into UTC. So yeah. Law enforcement is allowed to cause minor injury for minor infractions on the spot, and still imply a fine. Infractions include small thefts, jaywalking, and being seen outside your registered recreation period without being in transit between two locations. Government have also placed heavy restrictions on the regards to freedom of belief and religion, though due to Western world, these restrictions are heavily focused on the former major belief of Christianity. Places of worship were taken into the control of the government. Sermons and teachings cherry-picked from material to avoid offending people and their beliefs and personal choices. This has actually happened in the world. This isn't actually future. This has happened in the past, which is kind of scary. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of the historical resources. I would grab a book where it actually references like this happening in some parts of Europe. It's called The Insanity of God, but I can't remember the name of the author, but it's pretty easy to find, how different regions actually monitored this. And it's interesting. So that's definitely going to be based on history to work out the future in that regard. Not that this is the future. These government-run churches are heavily secured and are a common activity for those outside of the bars. There are a few underground groups, which are probably going to be above-ground groups, to be honest, who meet in secret. These groups do this under threat of imprisonment or death. So we're looking at something else that has happened in the past or is happening in the present, depending where you live in the world. And most of those countries are remaining unnamed if you see any listed reasons. So the main character is a player choice, all about player choice these days, Assassin's Creed Odyssey and all that. Male or female. Smooth life, not much in their way. They live middle economy, end of town, work as a data processor. Haven't worked out what a data processor is, but that doesn't matter. They can just sit them in front of the computer. Days are long. They are a third shift worker, which means they get most of the sunlight in their recreation time slot. So when first shift finishes work at 8? At 8, second shift starts work. And when first shift is working, second shift's in sleeping. After first shift when second shift is working, first shift is in recreation. When second shift goes into recreation, I believe first shift is back asleep. I have a chart for it. It makes sense. Yeah. They work in the office. Their air is purified, and their clothes last longer without deteriorating. That's a big thing that I'm trying to make, is that it's harsh. It's harsh conditions. They have their place in the world. They know what they are. Wife or husband, someone they met out at a bar, drinking heavily after missing a deadline at work, ran into their partner, knocking drinks out of their hands. Really cool, just normal story. Male is highly apologetic. That's set in stone. Doesn't matter if you're the male or female character. Female just said he owed her another drink. A few days later, they noticed one another at the same church service. The game starts with you rushing to meet the other at a simulation combat complex, which is an exciting pastime away from the bars and the churches. You end up meeting on the corner before the complex, and then we go into actual story. So, cliffhanger for the next 10 to 20 years. So a quick run through of the game mechanics. This is going to take forever to get through this first video. A quick run through of the game mechanics. This is going to be such a cool change-along though. Like, so cool. The mechanics will be isometric movements. So of course we're in an isometric now I can't speak. Isometric world. So we have sprinting, running, walking, crouching. Just your basic movements. Isometric RPG combat mechanics. So we have 3 worlds. We have a general world, an electronic world, and a spiritual world. Talk about offending people. Your basic weapon is a sword and shield. The reason why I'm limiting it is because I want it to be a really good mechanic. And if I give you 20 weapons, I can't guarantee a good mechanic. If I do 1, I may be able to do something for you. There's also a sprint rush and general combat. These are just the overviewing mechanics. There's also some stealth mechanic, visual line of sight. There's an audible mechanic and a stealth display. Other ones is complex dialogue trees, complex characters, and all that. Actions will cause reactions, and it is a scheduled world. With the shifting, like certain people are going to be out at certain times, and if you don't get them in that time, well, you're a bit in trouble. Currently, the isometric movement, I'm looking at 8 to 16. I'm thinking 8 just for the keyboard operation. Game's going to be controller or keyboard. It doesn't matter in my book. Mechanics will work just the same. It's limiting the axis movement to 8 or 16. I think it's going to be 8, but it doesn't matter. If you're pressing W and A on the keyboard, or you're going up left on your gamepad, it's the same movement. It's not going to change, and that's one of the goals, is not to have controller specific units, but have it friendly for keyboard still. And there's the 3 main modes of movement. Sprinting is suspicious, of course. If you're running through a crowd after doing some sort of suspicious activity, of course, people are going to go, what's that guy running for? What's happening there? Like, is there security around? Like you could stumble if you run through a crowd as well. Or enforcement could just happen to want to hit you. Because my enforcements are jerks. And yeah. There's also going to be, of course, limited physical stamina. You can't just keep running and running and running. It just doesn't work. Also, there's not much reasons to run through crowds because, well, running. I've got running, then walking, then crouching. All right, cool. Running. Okay, running is the default movement, of course, because you hate walking in games. You don't want to walk. You want to run because running gets you there faster. Running directly through a crowd of people is going to cause comments. Can be seen as suspicious if the player is under scrutiny already, but it won't cause apprehension immediately in this case. But it could cause a dialogue tree. Security could grab you and go, "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you want me to hit you?" Running down the street and avoiding crowds is considered acceptable. You've got to go somewhere. Like today, if someone runs down the street, as long as they're not running like in between you, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, he must have somewhere to go. Like, as long as he doesn't injure himself or anyone else, like that's fine. This isn't parkour. Walking is a method to blend in. So if you blend into a crowd of people, you minimize suspicion. Also, it is the player, when walks the same speed as NPCs. A very important thing in my book because it's kind of ridiculous. when you're walking beside an NPC, especially an NPC you're in active dialogue with, and you can't keep up with them because your walk is too slow, but your run is too fast. It's just annoying. Crouching lets you hide in a shadowy area behind something. You won't be audible detectable in this mode, so no audio, not loud enough. More like a rat rather than person. However, if you're seen in a crouching position behind something, people are going to go, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And you're going to be seen as suspicious, and you will be approached by people, and people will make noises giving away your location. So you may sound like a rat, but the person beside you shouting, "Why are you crouching?" They sound like a lot bigger of a person. Isometric RPG combat mechanics. Combat is fairly basic. Couple separate worlds. Generally action scenes, and it's not the majority of the game. The majority of the game is not in combat. The idea of being basic is to make it as good as possible, and without having a whole heap of clunky mechanics that don't work. So basic to make it good. In the general world, you have limited combat skills, surprisingly. Just saying. And it's usually going to be the player's choice to try to hit someone. And in most cases, it should be avoided. It's a horrible idea. You will put you disadvantage if there's lots of guards around. The player won't have a weapon. But so you may swing a punch at someone quickly to run. But as long as there's more than 2 guards, you're not getting away with that. And 2 guards, you're going to find it hard. Electronic and spiritual fighting are kind of the same thing, and yay. Electronic fighting will be very close to spiritual fighting. Electronic gladiatorial matches are a very exciting entertainment option for people as fighters, spectators, sponsors, or gamblers. There'll be a ring electronic fighting and a way to level up and get better. These will be about precision and positioning, and will give opportunity to the player to have their own climb. So hopefully it's going to be a little bit of spin-off. Hopefully the idea is that this is good enough that people can, it's kind of like a little spin-off, and maybe if it's really good, it will get released before the game as a little hype demo thing saying this will be in the game. It would be completely false because it's not the main part of the game, but it's in there. But here you are. Or maybe it would be released after to be like, oh yeah, here you are. Have that. I wouldn't be able to charge for that, but not that I know if this game is even sellable at this point. Then we got spiritual fighting, which is going to be interesting and very much where this thing definitely dwells in the realm of fantasy. I'm not saying this is spiritual warfare at all. I just wanted this in there. I wanted a way because the point is you're pretty weak as a person. But yeah, so spiritual fighting, you fight demons. Yay! And there will be surrounding guys who have reinforced themselves into negative actions. Things like guards. Guards get particularly trained in this world so that they are just evil people by default. They are coerced into it through their schooling, and they get forced to be this way. But if you defeat that demon around them, you'll cause them to stumble, and you'll cause them to feel unwell and physically leave their post. After the situation, the player may be even able to approach them and try to help them if possible. And the effects will happen immediately. There's not like okay, I've done that, I'll wait around 10 minutes. No. You do that, this person's going to start stumbling. And if the player loses these battles, they then get the negative reactions. They will stagger. They will have poor vision. They will have no stealth vision because they can't focus. It will be easier to spot them, and they will likely need a retreat and heal and like just heal up and rest up. I'm not going to go into particular reasons for these mechanics, but they're there, and it's the way that it's definitely a way where I'm like, as a single person, you're not strong enough to take on 8 people. That's just not happening. This is different though. Yeah, so that's there. Sword and shield. So your basic weapons are your sword and shield. This is because of development limitations. Hey, I'm me. Sword and shield is very versatile combat mechanism as well. Used to be I like swords and shields. They're pretty good. Stamina is of course going to be a limitation. You can't just like block and then push with the shield all the time. You will have to just be very mindful that if you just block with the shield, you're not doing anything. You're not damaging them, and eventually you're going to get worn out by them hitting. Blah, blah. Yeah, not a good idea. There's a sprint rush, which is a quick movement. Sprint rush, sword and shield, of course, you don't actually have a sword and shield in the actual world, in the general world. And with sprint rush can be used in electronic and spiritual context. Can't be used in the real world. You can't be standing in front of someone and then sprint through them 3 tiles or whatever and then turn around and hit them in the back. No. That's not actually physically possible. Yeah. And that's why I've got the general combat, which is where it goes into say there's no sprint rush, there's no sword and shield. It's just you. You got your fists. You can try to get out. And if you're actually in a general combat scenario, you can go into a spiritual, which kind of pauses the general world. You can climb up into a spiritual combat situation. But if you lose, you've got a guard right in front of you. Like if you lose that battle, you've just lost the general combat too. And you won't be able to retreat very easily. Isometric stealth mechanics, because we keep going 30 minutes in. So when you're in the general world, you want to be avoiding combat. It's not a good idea, as I've said a billion times. You can be able to hide near certain targets, which will give you information. You can eavesdrop. You can eavesdrop in the game, pretty much. Stealth can be done in the shadows or by limiting vision between the player and NPCs. So visual, limiting eye shot. So being in a highly unlit area, enforcement can't see you, and they'll just act like you aren't there. Enforcement will investigate these areas, though if they are suspicious, they're not going to just leave you there. The other option, hiding behind a wall or crouching behind a high obstacle, behind a half-high obstacle, anything like that will limit the vision. If you're hiding behind a corner, as long as they don't have sight of you, they can't see you. However, if you make noises, they can be suspicious. Depending on the noise, running, sprinting causes a fair bit of noise, of course. Walking, quite a bit less. If they were suspicious of you, though, walking's probably enough for them to start going, there's someone over there. If they're not suspicious, walking's probably just a normal noise. And crouching will cause practically none. And if the player is staggering and stumbling, they will make noise. So you are a target if you have gotten yourself into that situation. Stealth display. So I'm still trying to work out the actual game design around this particular instance, but the player will be able to see the cones of visions and limiting factors. When you're crouched this automatically activates that, hey, this is where this person can see. And there's also going to be a toggle button for it. Can only be activated in the general world. You can't just do this. And I'm linking this up to the fact that you most likely have chips in your head and stuff like that. It could be positioning, like your mobile phone won't probably be a mobile phone. It will probably be an actual, like, something in your head, kind of like Excel world kind of dealio situation. However, like, there's still the game design block there, and that, like, can't the enforcement use that against you? Like, can't they see things? And I think I'm going to break it just by pure laziness and just be like, well, look, they don't need to, and they don't care, really. They're not there to care about that. They're there to cause harm and mayhem, to fit with the world order. Okay, complex dialogue trees. Complex dialogue trees and characters. I'm fitting this all together. This is something that really needs heavy development, because I want this to be a very immersive world where the character feels like they're doing things. Like, you should be able to persuade people, and you should be able to find things out about people. I want this to be a thing. This is going to be one of my major elements, and needs to be absolutely perfect on release. So I don't have a lot of information about it, of course, because I've avoided that topic. No, I haven't. I've looked into character development and how character development is going to work. I'm still not sure if I'm going to have actual spoken dialogue, mainly because of the amount of lines that will be needed to make a fully generated cityscape. I'm not using the whole range of Brisbane. I'm still trying to work out how to do that. And if it gets to a certain point, of course, spoken dialogue becomes unusable. However, in an internet-connected world where we have all these chips in our heads and stuff like that, there is going to be social media profiles. And you guessed it, I don't kind of need to do any dialogue for social media profiles. I've got a sneaky suspicion that social media, although it does progress into different ranges and realms, social media is going to mainly be looking at text-based. May not, maybe. But, however, in this case, I can use a system called comma ifel, which is what I used kind of in my final project. It didn't work very great, but in... Looks actually with me in this book, Game AI Pro, edited by Steve Raven. I probably pronounced that wrong. Yes, that did just go back on the floor. That does have the details of that case of how to use that. So that would probably be a very good use case for it. It may need a lot of development, but it's honestly probably going to be the easiest thing in this entire game. So actions and reactions, we're still going. A goal of the immersive environment is to... I may need to do a table of contents on this video so badly. The goal of the immersive environment is to have reactions that show your actions meant something. This is where the social media posts could actually become a thing. It could even be articles as well, but it's going to probably be social media posts. Basic idea that journalism is very different in the future or something. The player is working for themselves, but it's their opportunity it's their actions. Like the player's like motivation is personal. Story-based elements. The player's motivations are very personal to them. However, They may choose to accept responsibility. And we could do one of those cool Life is Strange things where it's like, you didn't do that. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you water that plant? Why did you overwater that plant? It's like, we could do one of those on them. Totally. We're not episodic based, really, but maybe. So scheduled world, as seen in Appendix 1. You're not going to see. Not at this stage. The game world is fully scheduled. People will follow this schedule. There are penalties for not following your schedule. The player's going to need to be cautious about moving around through the streets during the productive period. When they're meant to be at work, they've got to be careful. Sediation time is another one where the enforcement is going to be like, you're meant to be in bed. You're meant to be at home. We're going to arrest you and take you back there, or we're going to arrest you and fine you, or we're just going to bash you up and you're going to wake up at home in 3 days' time. And the player's going to have to meet people outside their time. So when they're in production time, they may need to meet someone who's on recreation, or when they're in sedation, same thing, where there are people to meet outside their own time system. Yeah. So the only time that you can freely just go is recreation time. And this will build up through the game where there could be a point where you're marked as an outlaw. Who cares about the timing systems? You just got to care about it because you're going to meet up with this person here on shift 3. And obviously they're working right now. Maybe you want to intercept them when they're in transit. You know where they live. You know where they work. I can easily make the AI system go, well, this is how they're going to travel there. Do you want to intercept them? That's the most efficient way of travel. They're going to choose that way. They need to be at work. Maybe you want to intercept them. The world is in motion 24/7. This world is not stopping. This is the city that never sleeps. You think New York never stops? This place is never going to stop. And the idea is the whole world like this now. That's the idea. When it comes to art style, it's dark and dirty. Purples, browns, greys, highlighted areas in fluoro colors with a bloom filter, so it goes. Everything's very more basic design, but hopefully a lot of doodads around to differentiate itself. Yes, if you walk on every single doodad, you're going to go, this is so repetitive, but it's an isometric game. You shouldn't be doing that, I hope. Various districts will have different effects in them. Something I didn't mention in game mechanics is the flooded world mechanic. One reason why Brisbane, my mustache is going crazy. This whole thing's scruffy. One of the reasons that Brisbane was a pick is because after the 2012 floods, the council released some very lovely detailed flood maps. So I can choose to flood the world. So my current choice, and I'm currently mapping this out, and I've got to check the terms and conditions on how I'm mapping it out to make sure I'm not breaking any rules. Because of course, if it goes into full release, I'm going to make sure my copyright is like here, and I'm going to make sure my terms and conditions are like here because I don't want any backlash anywhere. It would be stupid to get caught because I used, you use this program to map it out? Nah, you're not meant to do that. That would be so stupid. But so the art style is but flooded world. So I'm thinking if it's 4% chance of flood, I can't remember how it works. I think it's a 4%, a 2%, and a 0.5. So my idea is, I believe, is the 2% is going to be flooded. Ocean dries, that's just going to happen. 2% is flooded. Big whoop. The 4%, the most likelihood, this is my percentages, could be over your choice. That's inaccessible. No one lives there anymore. No one can. Like, the buildings, they're waterlogged, their foundations are waterlogged. It's too dangerous. So you can't access there. 2%, that's accessible. People probably don't live on the ground floor, of course, but they probably live a little bit higher. And I don't care about 0.5% because meh. That's pretty much my reason. And this is going to cause some nice interestingness because if you look at the cityscape of Brisbane, it's very grid-based, very much... It doesn't feel like it if you walk around it, by the way, but it is. And what this actually causes is it causes breaks to the grid. The grid doesn't work anymore. And I think that's important. I don't want... Especially with a game where you're not driving a car around it. You're mainly taking public transport and walking. Like... Good base is not the way to go. There will be cars in the world. There will be like vans and stuff, like doing deliveries to certain locations and stuff like that. But no, you're not driving. Sorry. So back to art style. After we now talked about flooded world, which somehow isn't in my game design document. It's like something I spent so long on recently. So we're using the purples, the browns, the greys, highlighted areas being fluoro colored. So any signs, any brightness is fluoro. Very basic art design. Hopefully some water effects as people move through the water, of course. Otherwise, water will just look like this blank grey slate. Maybe some rubbish floating around in the water, some free floating rubbish, maybe some currents in the water to flow the rubbish out. Who knows? There is an idea here that when you enter dialogue, you get a high resolution face of the person you enter dialogue with. And that's definitely a very future idea. It's not something that's going to take place. It's not something that I'm going to make the first time round. It will pretty much be like, okay, do we have the capabilities to do this? If not, it's not happening. If so, in the future, because this is also something where I can make the dialogue system, and then if this becomes a thing I can do, well, then I can do it. It doesn't have to, and it's not something where I'm rebuilding the whole system for. It's just a very base level. But if you go into a dialogue, the goal, either platinum standard goal, diamond standard goal, is that you will see the other character's face take up the screen as well, and there'll be a big blur behind them so you can see their facial reactions. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's there. Sound style. We're moving so quickly now because it's art, and I'm not an artist. I need to get good at it. World's full of ambient noise, like just full of it. Footsteps and battens hitting others would be probably key sounds for immersions. Just a batten. Maybe the sword strikes and stuff like that. Those like really key sounds where you need to time them just to make sure. Music triggers, of course, soundtrack and all that. Haven't decided how the sounds are going to sound and stuff like that. But hopefully tension-based music triggers. Or you look at Skyrim. Skyrim's got various music triggers through it where, oh, guess what? A dragon's about to spawn on you, and it's flying around you. Let's get that high-level Dovahkiin music going. Fleeing, of course, is another one where if you're running away from action, maybe after a certain point in time, the game goes, "You're actually running now. Let's get you out of here." A spiritual world will have a very different ambient track. I'm thinking really bassy hits and strikes, or am I meaning really echoey hits and strikes? Either or, it doesn't matter. And of course, gladiatorial is going to be different again. User interface, very clean, indicator of the current goals and objectives, possibly a guided path of them, maybe appearing in the world, maybe not, maybe having a button trigger to go, yeah, I kind of want to see where I'm meant to be going right now because I'm stuck because there's water in front of me and I'm an idiot and try to go from A to B in a straight line. There should be you should be able to see your stamina and health and there should be effects that the edge of the screen shows, hey, you're doing something wrong. Like, the general damage effect, your screen starts glowing red. It's like, dude, you're about to die. Get out of here. And when it comes to the dialogue interface, nothing should try to be special. It's not meant to be special. All UI is meant to be simple, easy to follow, because that's what UI is. It's not meant to be something where you have to relearn how to use the computer because someone did something weird with UI. And no, I'm not doing a bug-minded where I choose to do a UI, which is separate from the Unity development platform. And then people go, it wasn't even a UI, it was control scheme. Control scheme was separate from Unity. I decided on a way which was different how Unity did it. And everyone was like, but it's wrong. And it's like, well, no, it's only wrong because you've been using Unity. I should just did it the same. Don't have any game concept. I have my little chart of recreation, which includes summer and winter daylight, because I have no idea when I'm placing this game. So yeah, let's go back to my little notepad. Scope-wise, as you can probably tell, this is a massive project. It's taken me 45 minutes to get through this video so far. This is a mega massive project. And look, when it comes to scope, the important things about scope is skill level, which I'm currently breaching. Definitely breaching skill level. Time and resources. Time also being a resource. When it comes to resources, I believe that I have the resources that I need to put prototypes together for this game. I am a programmer, whether I like it or not. It may be 4 years since I completed my degree, according to my degree. But I am a programmer. And part of that course was learning how to do things without being taught, as all degrees are meant to be. So I am a programmer. When it comes to using development systems, of course I haven't done any research into commercial viability of these systems, but I'm thinking it's either going to be Unreal or Unity. My worry about Unity, I haven't checked this of course, is like, what happens if I'm using a non-commercial license for a period of time and then go, oh, this is definitely going to be a commercial project now. Is Unity going to expect me to backpay? Which would be fine to backpay, or is Unity going to shut down the project on me? Which is also like, which would be devastating. Absolutely devastating. Whereas I know with Unreal, the way that their commercial license goes is that they would want a cut of profit, but I don't need a commercial license, I believe. These are things which I definitely need to look into. I need to be checking the programs I'm using so much. Reading those terms and conditions where you've always just said accept. I need to be checking that stuff. When it comes to art, if I'm going to try to do any of the art. By the way, I have done art in the past. I've just never done anything really detailed. If I try to do the art, there are free options now. What's it called? ZBrush or something? I have it installed. Is it ZBrush? No. Maybe? I can't remember. There is an art program that is free. If I quickly switch to desktop and switch back, and hopefully it doesn't break everything. Blender. Blender is the free one. And of course, yes, it broke everything. So now I need to open everything back up. So there's that option. So I have resources that I can use. Paint.net is a free source. Paint.net. All the artists in the world are coming after me now. And that's if I'm actually going to be doing that final art, which I would love to. But that's a lot of skill to develop. But the important thing is the time. And the time is only limited by my capacity. Literally, the art style I've chosen is not an aging art style. It's not an art style, and because of the fact it's an isometric game and you're zoomed out from the action, it's something that should be playable in 25 years time, if we're still playing computer games like this, which we will be. We will be. Oh, that's scary. Scary thought. Well, actually, the whole industry moved away from playing games like that ages ago. It's like, nah. We'll still be playing video games, like, predominantly similar. Maybe a little bit different with the user interface between us and the game, but I don't think isometric RPGs are going to just die off. So, and you look at adventure games. So time is a scope for technology wise, but I think the arts is choose the right art style, and I don't think Unreal Engine is going to go anywhere soon because Unreal's so long standing, and these are risks that I'm taking, of course, and I do prefer programming in C++ over C, just a personal preference. But yeah, when it comes to time, I don't have a time limit on it. It's a pet project, and if it takes 25 years, it takes 25 years. This is why I'm saying no hype, because yeah, this video is not produced for hype. I'm at 50 minutes. If anyone watches this whole thing, I am incredibly amazed. So let's continue moving, because it's a long project. This is like going to be my life. No, it won't be. I'm doing other things with my life. But anyway, I'm going to get rid of my face now. Okay, so character page. As I said, one of my main things, if I wanted something, I don't need to do arm movements because you can only see my arms on the edges. One of my main things is wanting to have a really detailed character system. Like a super detailed character system. Like incredibly detailed. So here we are. And the idea is for extra characters, a lot of this is going to be randomly generated. I've got to balance that, of course, but a lot of it will be randomly generated. So as you can see on this page, the citizen ID is a very important number. You'll see this 4 L's, that's replicated on birthplace. The idea is your birthplace, which is based on your postcode, is within your citizen ID number. So they know where you're from your citizen ID number. Someone may be able to tell just by cross-matching it with a piece of paper, oh, you're from this location. Then the X's are just probably going to be randomized numbers to a point, but also making sure that none of the randomized numbers match each other, because that's like my key for the database. That's my primary key. So yeah. Also, there's going to be a weighting to the randomized numbers. Those born later are going to have higher numbers. Those born earlier are going to have lower numbers, because otherwise it makes no sense. The full name there is just to simplify the process a little bit. You type the name separately, or they get generated separately. Middle names being important because in a dystopian future, I believe middle names will be a very important identifier mark. Right now, you can get away with not using your middle name. Their shift number, 1, 2, or 3. Also, there's a little radial selection here where they prefer the first name or prefer middle name. I haven't put nicknames in there, but there could be nicknames for certain characters, so maybe I should. Maybe I should put nicknames in there, especially for my main lot of characters. You then have your age, which is generated from the birth date. Please note the birth date is actually in the IT format. It is not in the American format, and it's not in the Australian or world format. It is in the IT format, because that's actually the best way to write dates. So yeah. And will be the date on all my vlogs. It's going to be written like that. You got the birthplace there. It's going to autofill Queensland, I feel. Just because most of it's going to be focused in Queensland because of restrictions on movements between different areas. I feel like most people are going to be from Queensland. Then there's going to be people from New South Wales here and there, Western Australia, maybe a few other countries, but maybe not a few other countries. Very limited. I think most people are going to grow up in the same location, or maybe a lot of people get moved into a location to try to make the gene pool like nice, big, and wide. Got your gender. I can't remember if there's an indeterminate on the gender. I don't believe there is. Of course, that could always be added. You've got relationship status and partner ID. Partner ID, of course, it's the primary key. So it's very important to know the primary key, and it's going to be able to then grab the first, middle, and last name from the partner ID. Interest, that is a selection box. Women, men. It probably even going to have a none. So this person's just not interested in anyone. But yeah. Now we get into some other stuff. Resident code is like the apartment number. Most people living in high rises, of course. Street address, street number, street name, suburb, postcode, etc. I'm going to keep going down from here. Work, position description, workplace name, street address, street name, suburb, postcode. Should put a workplace ID on there too. We got some health statuses. Like these are just going to be various things, and hopefully they're going to be connected to backstories. But yeah, so respiratory, like heart and lung syndrome is probably going to be a very big one considering the toxicity of the air. Just like being exposed to the air is really bad for your lungs. And I'm calling it heart and lung supposedly. And a torn ligament on the left leg. And this is going to be pretty detailed. Inspiration for having such a detailed system will probably be things like RimWorld, where your character can literally get shot in the lung, or they can get things like Alzheimer's or stuff like all sorts of stuff. And it's nice and detailed. There's a family wealth status there, rich or poor. That's probably going to have a couple more levels than rich or poor. And a bibliography. Bibliography is going to be probably randomly generated for most people using CIF at this stage. Could be different, could be a better ways to use. I haven't researched a lot of these things properly. I'm just trying to figure out what details did I want, and the best way was to do a quick GUI of the character generator. We got traits here, and the traits aren't really based on... They're based on a Facebook post, actually. And I've got to find it to make sure I thank the people. We've got optimistic, pessimistic, selfless, selfish, active, passive, open-minded, narrow-minded, cautious, reckless, and there's probably going to be a few more. Randomized, probably skewed towards each one to make sure you don't have an optimistic but narrow-minded person. Those two kind of counteract a little bit too much. But yeah, so the original way that I was going to do traits, and I'm mentioning this particularly for copyright reasons, because the easiest way to avoid copyright is to have great documentation, is I was going to look at using disk profile, because my work uses disk profiles. I have a full disk analysis on myself. So, however, looking at the copyright restrictions on disk profiles, it's a no. I can't use it. I would need full permission to use it, and I don't think they're going to give me permissions to use it. So I made sure that I'm not doing anything like it. It doesn't even have a circle of corners. And all these results are actually from a Facebook post, which I will better be documenting, to say these people actually gave me these results. I came up with a couple, but look, these people were also there. As soon as the first thing I did with the disk profile is I looked up the copyright restrictions on it, and then I stopped using it. Pretty much. Connections, romantic connection, of course. There's equality. There's probably going to be a type here to say if you're married or not, but partner ID, first name, middle name, blah, 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 blah. Family, you get parents, step parents, half siblings, third cousin, twice removed, dead 3 times. No, gonna try to keep it simple, but gonna try to make sure that people are interconnected in this world. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen because of course the parent may not live where the child lives. haven't quite worked that out. Then you've got other where they met them. Probably going to have a bit more detail on the other. Important button is the verify button to make sure that all this makes sense. Also, honestly, may put more romantic connections than just one. So, yeah, the verify is to make sure things make sense. There is no point having a romantic partner where the other partner isn't marked as a romantic partner. So that would be like a warning situation because you may not have made the partner yet. And you'll also be able to mass bulk verify. And as you can see on the left, right here, you've got all this search bar. And this is just the character generation screen. It's nothing else. So see what I mean by massive project? It is absolutely massive. And it's going to go for a while, just like this recording has. So that is the idea. Pretty much. And I want to continue working on it, and I want to keep you guys updated on my work and where I'm working, where I'm focusing. It's going to be hard when I have to do story elements because, as I said, this is very story focused, and I haven't wanted to say a single bit of the story. Backstories are different, of course, and there may be some characters I share backstories of just because I'm like, well, I think I did a good job on the backstory here, and it doesn't give away the whole thing. Maybe. Whoa, that would be really cool. Maybe maybe I'll do a whole fake social media thing on all the characters and have it loaded on a website, and that would be awesome. But that's also very late advertisement practice, and I don't care right now, but that would be pretty cool. That would be so cool. So about to do an outro, and another thing to grasp, as you probably heard, the recording date and this date are two separate things. When this was posted, that is basically because I don't have the URL, and I'm not going to post a video about a project and get the URL taken because of that. I don't even know if that URL is available. If it's not available, well, it doesn't matter. But if it's available, I want it. So I will only post this after I actually have my bank card back because I lost my wallet and be able to buy a URL for this project. There won't be an update for at least 2 weeks because I'm going to camp this next week where I'm leading, and I have 1 day before going to a meeting, and then I'm back at home, and my apartment will probably really need to clean by then, just because I'm horrible at that. So there probably won't be an update till the end of the month, but I'm hoping to do updates and regular updates, and it'll be really cool. And I have a map currently, but I've got to make sure I can use the map, of course. And I then will explain how I'm planning to move the map from this program to this program to make it editable and stuff like that. So probably not an update for the next couple of weeks, probably not until the 31st of January. But yeah. So I hope, if you stuck around, I hope you enjoyed this. To make it easier in the future, I may go out of my way to put a table of contents in the description to say what I'm talking about when. And that may be a future forward thing too, where I always do that, especially when I have multiple topics, or maybe when I actually get past the introduction and actually get on to myself. No, when I get past the introduction and get onto the project away from myself. Yeah, so that may be a future forward thing, so which could be very interesting. So yeah, I think that's all. Hope everyone has a great day, and hopefully I will be able to talk to you guys again on the next project update. Thank you all for listening. Bye.